Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. I was speaking here last night. I'm having a kind of Groundhog Day problem, but those of you who were here, saw me last night, will remember that I said that I'd spoken in this hall on many an occasion, but last night was the first time I'd ever done so sober. And I promised you that if you came back again tonight, you would see me speak drunk. And I'm glad to say I'm a man of my word. I've got nothing in particular to say to you, so I thought I'd just be rude about the proposition. I should say that the last speaker, I should make a declaration of interest. Ray has been a very good friend of mine for many years, and I've stayed at his home in Washington. Until tonight, I never knew that he had the worst Russian accent in the world, and the worst German accent, and even for an Irishman, the worst Irish accent, which is really quite extraordinary. I'm not going to be rude about the second speaker for the proposition because he was an intellectual and I have no idea what he said. However, the first speaker for the proposition I did understand at times, and I thought he made a very decent summation of what the American dream actually is, where he said it's the idea that every generation will have a standard of living better than the last generation, and the idea that anybody can become president. Well, when we saw George W. Bush, we all thought anybody can become president. At least if their father had also been president and their brother was able to fix the election in Florida. But the trouble with that dream is, of course, not only is it true that power in the United States is really, as we heard, held by a very, very small and wealthy elite. It's that the idea is fundamentally flawed, because the idea that every generation would have a standard of living better than the last was fundamentally an idea about consumption and about consumerism, and that the idea that human happiness lies in owning a lot of stuff. Because the truth is that infinite economic growth is not possible in a world of finite resources. And the American dream of infinite consumption has led the world into climate change and approaching disaster. And the United States has been the home of climate change denial and of blocking attempts to tackle the problem on the international stage. And that's the real truth of where the American dream leads us. The American dream leads us into the idea that what you need to do is consume as many of the world's resources as fast as you can, and to take for yourself as large a personal portion of that consumption as you can, and that the more you consume, the more successful you are, until you are so fat and bloated and stupid, you end up watching Fox News while eating McDonald's and generally being entirely unpleasant. I should say that it is not necessary to oppose this motion, to view the idea that Europeans or British people are any more intelligent. It is not necessary to dislike Americans. It is not necessary to dislike Americans. I only do it as a hobby. But we have to look at where the American dream has led us, and it has led us into an idea of American exceptionalism. And the truth is, the American dream was only ever founded on a dream for a small number of people, and it always ignored subclasses. The most obvious point being that the American dream involved the near annihilation of the Native American Indians and their shameful history of land grab, of lies, of massacre, of disease, of starvation that has been the lot of the Native American Indians in the pursuit of the American dream for a different people is very true. And I would also say this, because I think I haven't been controversial enough, that it seems dreadful to me that that a key plank of American foreign policy is to repeat what was done to the American Indians and help Israel to do it to the Palestinians in terms of expropriating their land, herding them into camps, and starving them. That is the truth of the American dream today. I was once a British diplomat. I was a British ambassador. I saw how the American dream works out in terms of the so-called war on terror. I saw the extraordinary rendition program. I saw intelligence from the CIA got under torture. I used to be in Uzbekistan, and I would see their long lists of intelligence from the CIA, which people had signed up to under torture, in which they would confess and give lists of names of Al-Qaeda members who, under torture, people would admit to being themselves members of Al-Qaeda and say, these people are members of Al-Qaeda too. And often, the person being tortured had never met any of these people, had no idea who they were. They were simply signing lists to stop being tortured. Occasionally, I knew people on the lists, because the Karimov regime, exactly like the Mubarak regime, or like many, many other dictatorships of whom the CIA and the United States have cooperated, they wanted to demonize their own opposition by labeling everybody as Al-Qaeda. I once saw a CIA list of Al-Qaeda members which included a man I knew, a professor, and that gentleman I'd had dinner in his home, and he was a Jehovah's Witness. There are not many Jehovah's Witnesses in Al-Qaeda. I am willing to bet that Al-Qaeda don't even try and recruit Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm quite sure that Jehovah's Witnesses would try and recruit Al-Qaeda if they could they'd be knocking on the cave door saying, Mr. Bin Laden asked me to bring round a copy of the Watchtower. But, the truth is that, like so much of the narrative of the war on terror, it was an exaggeration of the threat, an exaggeration, a pretense that America faces an existential threat from the rest of the world in order to justify the massive control of the military-industrial complex in the United States. And that, too, is what the American dream has become. The American so-called dream consists of American exceptionalism. The American so-called dream consists of not signing Kyoto. The American so-called dream consists of refusing to join the International Criminal Court. The American so-called dream consists of the fact that they can extradite people from the United Kingdom to face criminal charges in the United States, that person has no defense before the UK courts, and they're extradited to the United States despite the fact they have never been there, let alone having committed a crime in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not support rampant corruption. We do not support rampant selfishness. We do not support the destruction of international law. And what George Bush did to the United Nations in illegally invading Iraq was just as devastating as what Hitler did to the League of Nations when he invaded Poland. And I ask you to oppose this motion. Thank you.